I drove down Highway 395 toward Bridgeport and the legendary ghost town of Bodie. The road that leads to Bodie is an experience by itself. The first 10 miles are paved, and the last 3 feel like washboard. But visitors who make the trip are rewarded by the sight of a real live ghost town. When the Standard Company struck gold here in 1877, the population of Bodie exploded from 20 citizens to several thousand. Gold seekers, discouraged by the decline in mining and the mother lode, flocked to Bodie for another chance to strike it rich. During its heyday, the town bustled with as many as 65 saloons. Gambling and prostitution were prominent forms of entertainment, and murder became a common occurrence. Bodie soon became known as the baddest town in the West and a sea of sin. In 1932, a fire destroyed all but about 10% of the town, and in a few years, Bodie was deserted. Today, Bodie, a member of California State Parks since 1962, is in a state of arrested decay. Every effort has been made to preserve the buildings and their contents so that they may remain just as they were found when the town was abandoned many years ago. Visitors receive a map that takes them on a self-guided tour to all the sites in town. A museum containing artifacts and books can be found in the Miners Union Building and is worth a look. It's operated by the Friends of Bodie Association, who are active in preserving the town. Although it's too hazardous for the public to enter the aging structures, visitors may peer into windows and doorways to get a glimpse of the past when the town was full of activity. And be sure to look in the windows of the schoolhouse. Books and other items still remain on desks as if teacher and students had just left for the day. Even math problems can be found on the old blackboard. On the day I visited, people were chilled by this ghostly figure walking down a deserted street. You can easily spend the better part of the day wandering around Bodie. The park offers drinking water, but bring your own lunch and have plenty of gas in your vehicle. There is no camping, and there are no longer any gas stations. I asked Brad if the park's rangers were concerned about artifacts scattered around the Bodie property.
I think the big thing is that Bodie is a state historic park, and it is extremely fragile. This is not a renewable resource. And we get letters all the time from people who are sending back small tokens that they may have taken home with them, and they talk about the extreme bad luck that they've had. And, it's whether it's true or not, I guess, depends on the people. It'd be interesting to find out if their luck changed once they sent the items back to us. It's, as I mentioned, it's a state park, and we want to see it protected, and we want to keep it here for as long as we possibly can. So every little bit that leaves is a little bit of Bodie that won't come back.
And they say that the state park is in a state of arrested decay. Is that it?
Right. Yeah, we kind of define that as keep the buildings from falling down, but still make them look like they are.
I noticed that there's some big logs propping a few of the buildings up, too.
Right. Most of those buildings have been stabilized, but a lot of the logs could be removed if we wanted to. But they've been here probably since the 1930s, so they're part of the scene.
Tell me about the type of people that lived in Bodie.
There's a quote in one of the books, and I think it's mentioned in a video on Bodie also, that talks about the hard times, 4th of July parades. People were pretty much like we are. They like to enjoy life and have a good time. And the hardship of the winters they mentioned, and the hardship of actually living at 8,400 feet. But the quote says, and they were unspeakably happy.
What do you consider the miracle of Bodie State Historic Park?
It's kind of hard to put your finger on one thing, but I think the biggest miracle is the fact that it's still here. I'm kind of a ghost town wanderer myself, and you go to many other places, and they're ghost towns in every sense of the word. The buildings aren't there. There's maybe a few foundations and things of that sort. That's probably what I would consider the biggest miracle. We probably owe that to not only the state park system, but the James Stewart Kane family, who were kind of farsighted and looked down the road a ways, and initially for probably mining purposes, they always thought Bodie might boom again. But when that became less evident, I guess they decided we need to preserve this, and they started in the 1950s negotiating to make Bodie a state historic park.